Speaking of awesome people, we've got a very special guest today. So a while ago, I noticed a few people asking me what I thought about the national strike and all that. And I didn't have much to say outside of quickly looked at it, thought I got to get to know this a little bit better, and as fate would have it, John actually contacted me and reached out and said, said, let's have a yarn. So we had a quick chat and we've organized this today. And he's also come to my rescue because the guest I did have was unfortunately unable to make it. So, it all just worked out for the best. So introducing to the stage, Mr. John Wilson from the National Strike, Australia. How you going, mate?
Hey, g'day, Mark. Thank you very much for the invitation. North Queensland holds a special place in my heart. Love North Queensland, and also historically, lots and lots of historical stuff has taken place up in North Queensland that I'm aware, particularly, in amongst my old mob, the communists, are very, very active in North Queensland. And in fact, in central and North Queensland, Queensland's the only state in Australia ever in its history to have elected a state member of parliament to the Queensland member of parliament who was a member of the Communist Party of Australia. His name was Fred Patterson. Fred was the son of a pig farmer from Gladstone and went on to serve in the war and fought very bravely. He came back from the war, became a barrister, and then a community activist, supported a lot of the big railway strikes and other struggles that were going on up in central and North Queensland in the sugar industry, and eventually was elected to be a member of parliament. So I love North Queensland, love it. Where are you situated exactly, Mark?
Townsville, mate.
Yeah. Townsville, great place, great. Love Townsville. Big cleanup, needs a big fucking cleanup up there, mate.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of problems. But once we clean a lot of this shit up, Townsville, mate, should be one of the most beautiful cities anywhere on the east coast of Australia.
I think it definitely is a beautiful city. Unfortunately, our current Labor government has allowed a crime rate to rise beyond reckoning. They continuously go, oh, but it was bad under the Liberal Party. I'm like, well, the statistics say that you guys have really done a great job of getting, the crime through the roof. It's, pretty bad. We've got a council that's falling apart at the moment. They won't allow the mayor to come in and do his job. They've just released the budget today. As predicted, they have actually gone ahead and asked putting up extra parking meters all along the Strand, which doesn't just affect the beautiful people here in Townsville, but anybody who wants to come and visit us would now normally go to the Strand, and now you're going to have to pay for parking. And it seems like it might have been something that was set in motion previously by our former mayor, Jenny Hill, who is, as I am aware, still on the board of the Townsville Bulletin and pulling strings, which would explain a lot of the kind of stories we see, which is, a bit dicey, But, you leap straight into the communism thing, man. So we may as well sort of knock that one on the head straight away. You've got a bit of a history there with the communist I suppose, Party of Australia, which was allowed into existence again in Australia in 1973 when Gough Whitlam repealed the former act that prevented communism from doing anything here in Australia, created back in the 1950s by Menzies, I believe it was. There were obviously up here in Townsville, it was Tully. There were actually communist caves where they were hiding out so they can continue to broadcast their messages back, to the Soviets and various other communist places around the world and whatnot. So, there is a big history here of communism here in Townsville. So, but give us a bit of a rundown of your sort of experience with communism and where you're at now, mate.
Well, look, my history is with trade unions, and trade unions versus party political sort of stuff is vastly different. The thinking and we were up against child labour, having young children being brought in the workforce and being worked for shillings per week. Kids coming in with no shoes and being put in unsafe situations, and family men dying on the job regularly. So we were dealing not with theoretical Communist Party manifesto stuff. We were dealing with blood and guts. And so it's a whole different ball game. So, I grew up in that environment. My father, waterside worker, my grandfather, waterside worker. I mean, I'm a construction worker. And so unions and the left, I grew up immersed in all of it. And don't forget, when Robert Menzies ran a referendum here in Australia to outlaw the Communist Party under the national security laws in the 1950s, it was voted down. It was the majority of Australians voted it down. The majority of Australians trusted the Communist Party of Australia more than they trusted Sir Robert Menzies, if that gave you any sort of indication. But the communists and the trade unions, the type of makeup there, the people who made them up of that era are nothing like what is made up now. All of it now is George Soros, Open Societies Foundation, transsexual, all really United Nations, World Economic Forum, all of that stuff owns the left now. All trade unions in Australia are a captive operation of either the Open Societies Foundation, I mean, along with the likes of Get Up and those types of organisations as well. They're all paid for and set up by George Soros. I mean, Bill Shorten from the AWU made Get Up's big first donation along with George Soros from the AWU, from Open Society. So they're all owned now. They're all a captive operation now. There is some of the Australian unions that are not captive operations of George Soros, but they are a captive operation of the Freemason secret society. And I'd point to one like the Australian Workers' Union up here in Queensland, one of Australia's biggest unions, one of Australia's oldest union, the Old Shearers Union, has a heavy influence in sugar, mining and all sorts of industries up here in Queensland. It is controlled wholly by the Queensland Freemasons and the Australian Freemasons. And also, I mean, former National General Secretaries, people I used to know and work with. Terry Muscat, the former National Secretary of the Australian Workers' Union, who is now long gone, which is why I can now openly talk about this. He was a Knight of Malta. I mean, so, secret societies and George Soros and, open societies, all of these really dark forces own and control all of the Australian trade unions, which then in turn own and control the Australian Labor Party, because the unions are one of Australia's biggest money laundering operations that you can find. I mean, all tax-free. They have the same legal status as a church. They pay no tax. Their accountability is minimal, unlike a corporation or others who have to report. I mean, they report sweet FA or very little. I mean, look at the superannuation. I mean, me and a handful of other communists back in 1985, 86, I mean, we were the first ones that set up what they call the industry superannuation funds. I mean, the CBus or C plus bus, which is worth, I don't know, around about $100 billion right now. If you Google it, CBus has got funds under management of about, I don't know, 80 to 100 billion. And that was set up by the communists. We set that up. And I mean, and then the others like the Retail Employee Superannuation Trust, Australian Super and others like that, which are now in total something worth like $500 billion, $500 billion. That was all started by a handful of communists in the unions here in Australia. You've got to understand, they were a different breed back then, a different breed.
So when you say in a different breed, and like, I mean, generally I hear the word communism and a cold chill goes down my spine. but
Yeah,
particularly growing
sure.
up in the 80s, it was, the freedom versus communism, on just about every TV show. Rambo had a go at sorting them out as well, and all that. And the whole Vietnam War seems to be more of a, an attempt of communism to gain a stranglehold in the, the Asian sort of areas there and slowly work its way in. They've sort of, particularly to me, been perceived as a threat. You have a look at sort of communist Russia. It didn't really work out well in their favor. And, when communism finally fell in the 90s there, things sort of started to open up. And, I remember being a young metalhead watching sort of like the Pantera documentary, and they show you what it was like in Russia. And it's like, well, yeah, the Iron Curtain's fallen, but you still see the way they treat the people, it was very oppressive.
Look,
You
Mark,
see these guys on horses going around
listen,
belting
Mark,
people, so
Mark.
well, I'm wondering just what sort of attracted you to the idea of communism, because, when I grew up, as, well, it was scary stuff.
Look, Mark, I've heard all of this stuff before, mate. I've heard it all before about, and I'm not here trying to promote or endorse to communism at all, right? At all. I've disavowed all
I know that.
this. Yeah,
I know we're going to lead to the disavowing thing. I'm just kind of wanted to get it to the what attracted you to it in the first place. And you say it was a different thing.
No, I didn't say it was a different. Listen to what I said. I said the people were a whole different generation and were a whole different makeup. Nothing like they are right now. Nothing. Okay, that's the first point I make. Right. The second thing, if you ask what attracted me, there were no options. When I grew up in the 1960s, you either had an American capitalist system full of big banking corporations, right, which absolutely enslaved and then exploited and suppressed and done all of that stuff to ordinary working class people. So you had that on one side. On the other side, right, you had Russia or China, right, who had communism, were the only places in the world that stood up against American corporations, right? That was the choice. There was nothing in the middle, nothing, right? Now either, and if you were rich middle class, you didn't care. You were a happy slave here in Australia. You were a happy slave. You done very well. You didn't care. But if you were one of 10 fucking kids, mate, if your dad worked intermittently on the wharf and only got paid, when the ships come in and all of this sort of stuff, well, no. Your existence was vastly different here in Australia. You had to steal. You had to steal food, steal clothes. You had to become a thief just to survive here in Australia, in a land of plenty, right? So, there was no choice here. There was either that, the American capitalistic. Now we now know the same players owned both sides of the board. They wrote and owned the Communist Party manifesto. I now know all of this. I also now know they owned Wall Street and all the banking, etc., in the US Federal Reserve. The same powers, right? So all of that is now known, but growing up, it wasn't. It wasn't. So I really had no attraction to any of the political theory or economic theory or anything else to do with communism at first, at all. But what did attract me was the fact that a group of construction workers could stand together and form a union and tell their boss, who was killing their workmates or ripping their workmates off, to go and get fucked. That attracted me. And so that's where I become involved. So
fair enough.
Yeah, all the political theory stuff. There were party political people and others, that used to immerse themselves in all of that stuff. But, they were trying to win arguments. I was trying to win a war against poverty.
Yeah.
So I had a different purpose. And the people I knocked around with, they were big, real big, tough union blokes. And no nonsense. And they said what they meant and they meant what they said. And so, it was a perfect fit for me. So I enjoyed it. And later in life, of course, as we now know, the same power players that I've been manipulated have been manipulating everyone else as well. So we've all been fooled, all of us.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, so the job at hand now is to deal with those, those belligerents who have fooled a lot of us here and clean this mess up. Because right now we're in a deep hole, we're in a mess.
Well, as I described it to a fella the other day, I was talking to a Bunnings, you know, and if he's watching, because he said he'd say g'day, how you going, mate? You know, I described our current situation, and I mean it's the way I've seen it for quite some time. Actually, is this horrific blend of capitalism of communism, where neither of us have got what we the people wanted, but those who stand to, you know, gain more power and more control, they've got their capitalist control where they're controlling you economically, and they've got their communist control where they're controlling you through governments, unions, and the likes. So, you know, they've definitely sort of worked out, right, this bit worked well here, this bit worked well here. If we blend it together in this capitalistic communist sort of construct, we've got a wonderful control system going on here. So, and you know, I think that's what I found fascinating when I had a yarn to you the other day, you know, and you said you sort of, right, this current left situation and the communist situation, you've left it all behind, you're jumping over to the freedom sort of side, which does seem to be this middle ground of we're getting assaulted from both sides, what the fuck are we going to do? And you know, everybody's looking for a new solution and whatnot, or perhaps, you know, to rework an old one, you know. But it never occurred to me to sort of use that sort of labor leftist sort of approach, because, you know, I found it quite offensive when I was involved, when I started doing some work with some people that were labor oriented and whatnot. And like, I think it was only within a month or two of working with these people, at first I'm like, hey, you know, much like yourself, I see them doing good things for workers, they're helping out, you know, the poor downtrodden masses, that kind of thing. You know, so I felt like I was doing something good up until the point where, you know, I'm getting phone calls saying, oh, you need to take this down off Facebook, you can't say that, you can't do this. I'm like, hang on, this seems a bit, you know, like a dictatorship, man. You can't tell me what I can and can't post on Facebook. And you know, that's when I was explained to that, you know, the labor and the unions, they go through everybody's Facebook posts, and if it's these things they don't like, then you're not a part of it. And the mantra was, look, just toe the line, do like I say, mate, and you'll get lots of work. And I'm like, yeah, this is dodgy. I don't like this, you know. So yeah, I found it interesting, your ideas to sort of move forward, if you want to sort of share what you were telling me the other day.
Well, look, Mark, I bring to the table, right, reluctantly, for the last 5 years, I've been hoping that I was going to find some political party or some activist or some community group or someone or something that I could throw my weight behind and support. And the reason why I was never going to lead anything was that, you know, my history, my baggage. I know the baggage that, as an ex-senior National Trade Union official from the Communist Party, the last of the fucking Mohicans, I know the baggage that I carry. Now, after 5 years of hoping that there would be someone I could get behind and support, I am now arrived at the position where I'm unable to do so, right? I've got to literally do it myself, right? Now, I know I bring to the table, Mark, like many years, decades of fighting governments and power structures. That's what I bring to the table, right? I also bring to the table a lot of experience and inside knowledge where I know how the country has ended up being tied up and manipulated and placed into this position, because I played a role, and I played a role in it, right? And so I own that, right? I own that, right? And I say the way to go forward here is to withdraw our support, right? Unplug ourselves from this corporation, GovCorp, if we can just call it that, right? Unplug, right? That's the first step, right? Now, a national strike that I call for on the 9th of February, right, within 3 weeks went viral, right? Had tens of thousands of votes. The hosting site, I find out, had Israeli connections, and they tampered with both the ballot itself. I was getting 1 in 10 votes counted, and they trashed the other 9. So there were thousands of votes not counted. It went viral, and then it got out of control on them, and they shut it down. They shut it down and refused to give me any of the data. Okay. So I knew that this was a hot topic. I knew that if I wanted to call for a national strike, I had to have some sort of imprimatur. You can't just say, hey, let's go and strike. So I had to have a vote. And so from there, I set up a new website, which is going very strong, nearly 9,000 active strikers there. But the real story is what's going on behind the scenes with our website is that in 30 days, the last 30 days, I mean, we are getting nearly 140,000 visits to our website going over our documents, our national strike documents, and our other supporting material, our videos. And on average, they're spending 18 minutes each going through our stuff. So it's got it's attracting enormous attention, right? And it's going really, really well, right? So now, eventually, right, the strike is being layered on. We got up to strike action number 3, and that was going very well when all of the national strikers wanted to be connected up. And so to help with that, we launched a new application. It's on our website where people can literally sign up to it, and that then connects people up through this app.
Is that this support the motion part here?
Yep, support the motion. If people go to the website, please, if you want to be plugged into everything we are doing, register and support the strike motion. Put your name and then put your postcode and your email. That's it, okay? So now the national strike is, again, it's growing daily. It's we can't handle, I don't want to be overwhelmed by 100,000 people. We just can't handle it. But it is growing, and our team is growing, and our infrastructure is also being brought up to speed to match that growth, okay? The Connect Up campaign, the one down the bottom, is where the new app is. If you want to log on and sign up, you can connect up with other national strikers in your regional district, okay? We use your postcode to try and bring people together, okay? So, Mark, it's going very well, the national strike, and you know, it's got a lot of support. I mean, I note that, you know, people who may not have worked together in the past and don't like each other necessarily have still come together to support the national strike. I mean, we have people like Rick Bosey from A1. We've got people like Rod Cullerton up in Western Australia who supports the national strike. Dick Yardley here in Queensland, Wayne Glue over in Western Australia up at Geraldton supports the national strike, and like I just say that for the first time in a long time we have a national initiative, a genuine national initiative. It's grassroots. From the grass, there's no political parties or any other nonsense involved here. And for the first time in the freedom movement, it's got broad support amongst those people who, you know, have a good following in their own right. And I thank all of them.
It's definitely one of the things I've noticed about the Freedom Camp, you know, and it's just one, you know, here at North Queensland Freedom Network and Cafe Lockout, everybody's welcome, you know, it doesn't matter where you come from or what you're doing. And I think, you know, having you come on today, hopefully really sort of sends that message out to people too, you know, that we just want to hear ideas. Everybody puts their ideas down on the table. Maybe we can, you know, figure out what's going to work. And obviously, you know, rebuilding a whole new society is going to take lots of different kinds of people, lots of different things. And, you know, as much as this left and right narrative is set to try and divide us, as you've clearly identified, and for anybody who's been paying attention can see, they're playing both sides. So, you know, and it makes no sense. You know, I always look at it as, you know, this left and right crap. If you're sitting in a boat, you got two oars, you're going to take one out, and I'm going to just favor the right. You're just going to go around in a fucking circle. You know, oh, fuck that. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll just favor the left. Now we're still going around in a circle, just going in a different direction. You know, we're not going anywhere. So we need both oars in the water. You know, you need multitudes of different ideas and to sit down and have a yarn. So I think that's one of the really good things about the freedom movement. And, you know, even when I was down there at Canberra, I noticed it was just such a different array of people, and even the friends I keep today are so different. You know, before the COVID mayhem, you know, you'd stick to your type of people. You know, I walked around in heavy metal and music crowds. That's kind of, you know, who most of my people were. Those were most of my friends. But these days, true, I'm friends with so many different types of people. I couldn't even sort of put it down to anything other than freedom lovers.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't lost one single friend at all since the beginning of this war 11 years ago when I first joined it, because I never had any friends to start with. Old communists don't have any friends at all. And, you know,
why is that?
We only have people we know and useful fucking idiots, mate. That's it. And we don't have friends. And so I haven't personally lost any friends at all. I don't operate like that. I'm not looking for friends. I don't like half the people in the freedom movement at all. I don't like them. And the other half don't like me. But the fact is this, ladies and gentlemen, all of you out there need me. You need me. You can't get your freedom without people like me. And I can't get my fucking freedom without yous. That's the facts of it. So even though we don't like each other, and rest assured, I don't. I need you. And so because of that, we got to work together, and we got to find whatever common ground there is, and we got to muscle up, and we got to deal with this belligerent occupation, whether we like each other or not. That's the facts of it. Disregard anything, any nonsense about communism and all that stuff said about me. It's all fucking bullshit, right? All you need to know about me is, can I fight? Yes, I can. And which side am I fighting for? Well, I'm fighting for my God, right? And I'm hoping my God's the same as your God, right? And if it is, well, let's put aside all the differences and let's fight for him, and let's win this fucking satanic war, because they are after our bloody children. That's what they're after. And it's scary shit. It's scary shit. I'm a dad, and they're not getting my kids, mate. They're going to have to fucking literally crawl over my cold, dead body to get at my kids. And I know a lot of other dads out there, old union lefties like me, who all feel the same way. We've had it. We've had it with this butchering kids and disfiguring them and poisoning them and chemicalizing them and all this. It's not on, mate. This is the line in the sand. It's our children and our nation. And because the issues and so much are at stake, surely we can put aside whatever differences, silliness that's out there, and there's a lot of it, put it aside. I bring a lot of experience to the table. I don't care whether people like me or not. There's no one else in this country, no one, that has the runs on the board, the skin in the game, and the experience that I bring in fighting government and power structures. No one. Go and find anyone else out there that even comes close, Mark, and I'll give you $100, right? I'll give you $100, right? Now, I'm offering my services, no encumbrances, no cost-free, for nothing. I'm bringing it all. There's going to be no gas left in the tank. And you watch people say, oh, do strikes work? Listen. The only thing that's ever worked in 200 fucking years in this country that's ever held power to account have been big strikes. That's it. Nothing else has ever done it, ever. We have changed the direction of our country all off the back of big strikes in this country.
So, well, that was a pretty big sort of, I don't know if strike's the right word, because at the end of the day, it was, if you don't take the poison, you're going to lose your job. So they kind of forced a strike in a lot of ways with the way they moved their pieces on the board 4 years ago, and a lot of people stood up. A lot of people said no. I've never seen demonstrations like it. I come from the mainstream media background, as a camera operator. And I've seen a lot of protests. It's usually, 3 or 4 smelly hippies down the road chaining themselves to a fence because, climate's going to kill them or some shit, and the media would give them heaps of attention. I think one of the biggest protests I seen here in Townsville was the farmers, because they were getting sick of all this, Green New Deal shit. And the assault on their ability to produce as a farmer had caused, quite a big turnout. That was one of the biggest turnouts until they tried to push this jab onto the teachers, and at that point, that's when everybody really said, "Okay, they're coming for us all now." And there were thousands and thousands of people, and the only thing the mainstream could say, particularly I think the main networks pretty much ignored it. And Townsville Bulletin said, look, the movement's been hijacked by conspiracy theorists. Took one photo of one sign and wrote a story about that. It completely ignored the thousands and thousands of people. So it's an interesting scenario at the moment. I think that the amount of people that stood up definitely sent a clear message, and I think the numbers just continued to grow to the point where the government was like, well, we can't go any further. We're just getting resistance at this point. So I'm inclined to agree that, when people stand up for themselves and say, fuck this, I ain't got here and no further, this has got to end. It definitely seems to have an effect. You certainly can't comply your way out of tyranny. But explain to me how this national strike is going to work, and how people are going to benefit from it.
Well, look, the very first thing that we were called on to do was in our strike actions, was to not add to the financial burden that people were carrying. And if they could, reverse that, do the opposite, right? So strike action number 1 was to try and give ordinary people back 2,000 or 3,000 a year, in which they would be paying in rates, right? So we adopted a national rates strike action number 1, okay? And that was the first one. And you got to understand that when you are building up national, action, right, you are building it up. It takes time. You've got to build it up, and you've got to bring people with you. You've got to test run all of your communications, your coordinations, all of your documentation, all of this stuff. So this takes time when you mobilize millions of people. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. So we launched strike action number 1, and that went really well. And so we felt confident enough then to adopt the next strike action, which was an occupational health and safety strike action, which was fluoride in the water. And so we launched that, and that was mobilised, and so on, and that went very well, right? Still being made. In fact, we've just made a decision to add a bit more muscle to that strike action with some extra manpower that we have. And so we then moved on to a third one, again, bearing in mind the financial pressure that people were under, and we launched strike action number 3, which was called the Bill of Exchange, right? Bills of Exchange strike action, where bills or invoices sent by government corp could be paid with a bill of exchange, a private bill of exchange, and that went really well as well. We then walked on to number 4, which was the Connect Up application, because people wanted to be brought together. And then we have strike action number 5 under consideration now. Now, look, Mark, the best way to describe it is this, is that the national strike is building up and will continue to build all of this year. We are laying siege. We are laying siege to a belligerent occupation that is holding all Australians hostage, right? So that's what we are doing. And wherever possible, we are going to refuse to fund this belligerent occupation through their courts, through their cops, through their councils and through all of their fraudulent invoices and everything else. And if they have fraudulent banking systems, right, we'll also be getting to them eventually as well. But we are laying siege to this belligerent occupation, and it's growing daily. And the longer this belligerent occupation remains in place, the worse it's going to get, Mark. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get more and more ugly. We know this. We know this. We are offering, and what, look, Mark, I'm saying this also. Look, if we as Australians do not get this national strike and some real genuine form of accountability and protest in place, as this year rolls on, when people find out just how deliberate they were deceived and then poisoned with all of this vax stuff, right, you are going to see absolute anarchy on the fucking streets. I'm telling you. I am saying that we have to have some structure, something in place to capture all of that anger and that screaming for justice, which we know is going to come. And a national strike is the means to achieve that. If we don't, we then have violent overthrow. Violent overthrow. That's the other alternative. And as an old communist, I know how that's played as well. Got lots and lots of learnings on that front. But that's not the way to win this war. We can take our country back and clean this mess up without a shot being fucking fired here, but by literally pulling the pin on all of it, right? Stop funding it. Stop funding it. Stop cooperating. Stop voting for it, mate. It's not ours. It answers to an overseas power structure. It's not Australian, this government corp.
So the political structure, obviously, and, you know, you've mentioned you've had trouble with the voting and all that sort of stuff. So I don't personally, I don't think like not voting is a viable solution, you know, because at the end of the day, you just end up with the idiots voting and they are going to make a bad choice. Not that we have a great deal of good choices, because, you know, I mean, I explored the Labor side of things and, you know, was pretty quickly turned off. And then I'm like, all right, let's explore some more of this one nation right wing sort of thing, and wasn't exactly impressed. You know, I mean, I actually come up with the first One Nation cartoon. I don't know if you're aware of that. Troy Thompson and I are currently under siege mayor sat down 4 years ago and dreamed that up. We did the very first one, and, you know, and Pauline Hanson seen the idea. Once I explained to her what we were doing and, you know, what I thought the idea could become, she grabbed it and ran with it. So you know, more power to her. She's doing some great stuff with it. I think it's you know, I thought it was obviously a great idea because she ran with the idea. But, you know, that's definitely some of the kind of skills I bring to this party, you know, as that promotional tool. You know, my mind works pretty well on those things, and I'm glad I didn't give Pauline the whole playbook. I only gave her one idea to see what would happen, and, you know, let's just say, where am I? I'm stuck here. She's run off with the idea. So, you know, I'll save all the others for another day. You know, she missed out as far as I was concerned, you know, because I've definitely got a lot of good ideas for promoting things. You know, I can see how things work, you know, it's a, you know, and I can see how to market a product, you know. It's, you know, being in a band, you've got to have those kind of skills, you know. You know, all I ever wanted to do was play guitar, but I ended up figuring out how to be an audio engineer, you know, a lighting guy, a sound guy, friggin', you know, I did all the album art myself, you know, start learning a bit about photography and cinema stuff, which is how I ended up as a camera operator for the news, you know. So I learned all these amazing skills that can be, you know, of great use, and hence, you know, this whole North Queensland Freedom Network, that logo and all that stuff that's animated at the beginning, I made it all myself. You know, this is a one-man show, with the exception of my wonderful family out there that give me a help, and, you know, Janine and, you know, some of the Indigenous community, a few other people, you know, got my back at the moment. You know, Tracy as well is another one I should definitely mention. He does a lot of help, you know, researching things. So people, you know, jumping in to help me, because yes, I am only one man. But back to the point, where do we go politically? You know, I mean, obviously we're at a point where we've got to remove the belligerent occupation. Do you see it's possible for us to set up a party, a freedom party sort of thing, and insert it into the current system, or do we need to tear the first system down?
No, it's all got to go. It's all got to go, Mark. It's got to be, look, the fracture line in the freedom movement is this, and you've got to get away from personalities, left or right, all that nonsense, right? But this is the fracture, right? There are those in the freedom movement, right, that believe that all of this rubbish can be fixed up, somehow fixed up, that we can fix our courts, that we can fix our cops, we can fix our councils, we can fix our Department of Prosecutions, we can fix Big Pharma, we can fix all this shit up. And what they say is that let's fix it all up and all of the rest of you Australians resubmit back to it, right? Okay, that's what they're offering, right? Now, Commo John, I'm saying, no, well, you can't fix it. You can't fix the cops. You can't fix the courts. You can't fix the Big Pharma. You can't fix it. It all has to be dismantled and it's got to go, right? Now, right now, in the freedom movement, right now, we are already seeing the green shoots. We are already seeing common law courts being set up. We are already seeing sheriffs. I went to the Gold Coast where there was a launch with the Australian National Sheriffs Group, right, who are authorised under grandmother's law and other legal protections, right? We are already seeing homeschooling. We are already seeing people who will never go to a doctor again in their life, like me. They are going to holistic medicines, all of this. So what you are seeing right now, Mark, the evidence that I look at is that millions of Australians are withdrawing out of the system. They want out. They don't want their fake fiat currency. They're buying gold, they're buying silver, they're buying real estate. They don't want their fake. They don't trust the currency. They don't trust the corporate media. They're switching it off in their hundreds and hundreds of thousands. They're now going to your show and other, alt media, even though you're only a small player, Mark. People are still putting their energy towards you, than not corporate media. And there's millions of marks out there, or thousands of them, right? So we are destroying it. We are seeing a mass migration out of the belligerent occupation. They're trying to evade their jurisdiction in the courts. They're trying to go common law. You name it, Mark. You name it. That's what I see. Now, the national strike fits right into all of that. It works with all of that energy and where that energy wants to go, right? That's why it's a sure bet. That's why it will be successful, because it's not working against the energy that's being released, okay? So, Mark, the facts of life are that this belligerent occupation is a global operation and it is being dismantled globally. Here in Australia, the support systems that are holding this belligerent occupation in place are falling down. This national strike, apart from being, it is a sure bet. What we are doing here is we are bringing the belligerent occupation down a lot quicker than it wants to come down. But will it come down? Yes, it is. It's all coming down, Mark. It ain't gonna survive. They have tried to fucking mass murder millions of Australians. Do you honestly think, with 1 ounce of justice, with 1 foot of hemp rope, that any of these people are going to survive this? The answer is fucking no way. No way. Not if I've got anything to do with it. None.
So, as we're withdrawing from the system, obviously, we're replacing the school system with homeschooling, which is wonderful to see. I gave it a good go myself. My older kids they want to go to school, and that's their choice. you know. But for a time there, I had to homeschool one of my boys because the system was so fucking bad that he could barely read and write and, you know, do maths. And I had to pull him home for a year and correct the damage as best I could, you know. I think there's still a lot of work to be done there, but that's, you know, he's old enough now to sort of, he's going to have to make those choices for himself. You know, I offer the hand wherever I can, you know, but I think the homeschooling is definitely a great way to go. And with the younger ones, I don't even want to put them anywhere near the school, especially not while they're trying to, you know, convince them that boys can be girls and girls can be boys and boys can have babies and all this other utter madness, you know. In one hand saying trust the science and then completely going against it, and the other it's just nuts, you know. So that's one obvious element. You know, people turning to, you know, self-employment is another way to sort of get out of that sort of a system as well, which is great to see. I think a lot more people giving that a crack, you know, particularly, you know, I come across a lot of teachers who were like, well, why would I go back to that? That was a horrible friggin' system. Now I'm a yoga instructor, or now I'm this, and, you know, they're all set up their own new little worlds. And, you know, and I think for a lot of people, one of the big things to get around in their mind is that I think a lot of people have become so dependent on the current system that the idea of leaving it is really fucking scary. But I've found that as soon as you step away from it, life's just so much fucking better. It's such an instant gratification too. You know, yeah, it's a little bit hard at first while you find your feet, but once you're in that zone, man, it's just so much better to be operating as your own person.
Mark,
so those are some of the systems, but I think the big system, I mean, obviously, again, getting away from the medical thing, like you said, you know, going holistic. There's lots of options for those sorts of things, but our government is one of our big problems, and our banking and our money system. You know, we can't go around carrying big lumps of gold around in our pocket. It's just not really all that feasible. We need to get a hold of the banking. We need to get a hold of the government. What do you think our options there, particularly in our government realm? Because I think once we get a hold of the government, then we've got more sway to sort of move in the banks, in my sort of mindset. What do you think there, mate?
Well, look, I've actually wargamed out with some very, very smart people. We started from this position. Okay, the belligerent occupation has been removed. Okay, whoever we are, right, we have the controls. What do we do, right? What do we do, right? Okay, now in wargaming that out, and I'm just talking, right? I'm just talking, right? I've got slides.
That's all we're doing. We're just having ideas.
Okay. But look, what we did was pretty much, and we did this before the guy in Argentina did it, right? Okay, the president in Argentina, Milei, whatever his name is, right? Basically, he went up and said, right, I'm going to see this government department, I'm going to switch it off and defund it. And then he moved to the next one. See this government department, I'm going to switch it off and defund it, right? Okay. Now, what we did in Wargame, we went through line by line. We got the budget papers out, we got the government department, and we went line by line by line by line of all their expenditure. And we put 3 columns at the end. We went, yes, okay, i.e. leave it alone, leave it, don't touch it. No, which means defund it. Or the other is replace it, i.e. leave the money, but don't do it that way, have a replacement, right? Do it differently, right? And we went line by line by line by line to every government department, and we found like there was about 60% of line by line items you could immediately switch off straight away, and it would have not one single impact on any Australian whatsoever, including the taxation department, which is all illegal anyway. What you don't even need. You don't need, it's all fucking illegal. Yeah. You get me? So
totally.
This is not hard. This is not hard, Mark. For people who are addicted to government, there's already thousands of community activists out there getting ready to take over the responsibility of law and order, of courts, of public administration. I mean, if you look at the training that Rick Bosey is asking his A1 people to go and study, constitutional studies and public administration studies and stuff like that, right? He's getting them ready for, taking public office of some description, right? You get me? So basically here in Australia, we don't need about 90% of any of this government. And let me say to you, Mark, I grew up in the 1960s here in Queensland, brother, and I love Queensland. In the 1960s, my family of 10 children, mum and dad, we never had government. We had this much government in our lives at all. We never saw cops. We never saw the council. We never saw anyone from the government ever. We had nothing to do with them. They had no involvement in our lives except for about this much. And we didn't suffer. I mean, Queensland was the most beautiful place in the world. I mean, now we have all of this government. I mean, we talk about law and order. I mean, it's horrific. Here in Queensland, the Queensland police in the last 18 months or so have shot and killed more Queenslanders up here than all other police forces in Australia combined. Wow. Combined. And I'm not promoting other state police forces because they, these people down south, what they do, them police force, they'll tase you, an old lady, and murder you that way. And kill you. They won't shoot you. They'll tase you. So I'm not praising them up. I'm just simply saying that so bad is our law and order in Australia. I'll go further. I was speaking to some old maritime union people that I know and about child trafficking in shipping. And I said, boys, come on. We got to try harder to stop this, mate. This shipping containers of kids overseas and all this is no good. And they said to me this. They said, John, okay, we see a container. It's got kids in it. Who do we fucking tell? In the case of the Victorian maritime boys, they said to me, what? You want us to tell the Victorian cops, the rotten, corrupt, child trafficking Victorian cops, the Victorian Child Protection Services, right? The Victorian, government. They looked at me. You're kidding, mate. Our own children will be in threat if we do that. Who do we fucking tell? Who do we tell? So I'm saying to you, Mark, we have no law and order. You can witness with your own fucking eyes the most horrific crime right in front of you, and you got nowhere to go to report it. None. Yeah. In this country right now. We are lawless. We are fucking lawless. The only law enforcement that exists in Australia right now are guns, frequency weapons, police dogs, horses, and violent beatings. That's the law and order. There's no other justice, none of that in Australia now. And we, ordinary folk, are on the receiving end.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you there, mate. Totally agree with you. So basically, people are ready to get involved. Is the short answer to that question. People need to get ready to step up and get involved. I was talking with an Indigenous lady last week who is definitely working on some similar constructs as far as the common law and bringing it back to a more natural law. Have you looked into that sort of side of things yourself?
Look, we basically we are a populist movement, right? We will do whatever's popular because we want to be a populist movement, right? We want the public support, right? It's not going to work if we don't get it, right? So we're a populist movement. Look, if we can, and we are, work with any organic group, person, anyone out there that's got, we'll work with them. The issue is this: it's whether or not I can weaponize their idea and make it a strike action. That's the problem. There's good ideas out there, but I can't convert them into a national strike action that I can execute properly and give it the right support and so on and so on. Right, that's where I'm having some of the idea. But the fluoride strike action, that came from a suggestion that a Gold Coast person came up, done a lot of work, and said, "Listen, we should make this a strike action." Sat down with our team, we went over it all, and said, "Yep, we can weaponize this, and we can make it a strike action," and we did, and they were
successful in the Gold Coast in getting that fluoride removed, weren't they?
Well, they were successful up in your way, North Queensland. I think
In
Romney
Cairns.
Stewart's done in
Yeah,
Cairns.
Romney
Yeah,
Stewart did some good stuff.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I think we need a lot more hands on deck here in Townsville. You
Yep,
know, it's the
yeah,
big reason for this network is to try and get people a little bit more excited and realizing there is a lot of people out here. I'm amazed at how many people I come across that, you know,
yeah.
are thinking, right, we've had a gutful, this is bullshit. But so many of them just are lost and don't know where to go and what to do. It's like, well, first
Yeah.
thing we've got to start
Mark,
come together, you know.
yeah, look, Mark, if you give me an invite to go up to Townsville or North Queensland,
Mm,
right, for an event of any description, mate, I'll do my level best to come up. I go like, I'm going to towns like Wallangarra on the 13th of July. There's nothing there. There's a pub. That's it. And
mm,
people are coming from hours of drive away to come to the pub for a public speaking event, mate. Like I go to these really offbeat, out of the way places to
mm,
reach people who are isolated. And North Queensland, mate, I love North Queensland. So
yeah.
I'm committed. I'm committed. And so's the team that work around me. And you've got to see the team, mate. They
Yeah.
are probably the best professionals that I've worked with in many, many years. But we're committed to assisting and supporting any grassroots efforts to resist and fight against this belligerent occupation and to work with them. If we can cross promote, support, whatever, we will do so. We will do so, right? That's where we're coming from. So give us an invitation and stay in touch. If we can, certainly, if you've got other episodes, let me know when they're on. Send me links and I'll make sure
Every
I put them
Friday
up on.
night.
Okay.
Every
Well,
Friday night, I do an interview like this. I just, you know, random people. Well, not so much random. I mean, you know, a
yeah,
lot of people are contacting me these days. You know, I used to have to try and chase people.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
now like the word of mouth is getting out there, and you know, the mainstream media have started doing hit pieces on me, which I think fundamentally just threw fuel on the fire. Really, the views have
yeah.
gone up. You know, we're talking to probably about 1,500 people live right now, you know, which
Great.
is a pretty common thing, you know, and there'll be thousands more by tomorrow and the day after. You know, a lot of people
Yeah,
tune in
great.
after the fact and all that sort of stuff. But I think you know, looking at the numbers between the multiple pages, we're getting pretty close to 1,500 live across the board here, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
You know,
great.
you know, and definitely, I think this is a good time to start letting people know to ask your questions. My wonderful crew outside there who are running the comments are going to star some comments for me, aren't you guys? You know, and we'll throw some public comments here at John. Definitely getting an event going is something that's been, you know, talked about quite a bit. It would definitely be quite a mix mash because, you know, I think it'd be good to get, you know, some more of the cafe locked out people up, you know, maybe some of the know your rights people and, you know, yourself and whoever else is keen to sort of get on board and, you know, do something to that effect. You know, I know there's lots of different little ideas and things going on, but you know, for me, I just want to get everyone working together in some way, shape, or form. And I think, you know, like the idea of, you know, a union style sort of approach to things is definitely something that can be added into the mix, because until I spoke to you, it just didn't really occur to me. You know, it just kind of felt like those people had been so heavily hijacked that, you know, who could be a part of that, you know, being helped from us from that system. One of the things I wanted to ask you though, mate, how involved were you with the unions, and you know, what sort of made you turn away from them?
Well, in 1993, I was the president of Trades Hall Council. I had been for 3 years. I was the secretary of the CFMEU in Canberra and very much a permanent fixture within the deep state in Canberra. And I got married. My wife is Japanese, and we wanted to have family. And uh, having children and starting family became my priority. And I didn't want to do it in Canberra. I didn't want to live the life that I was living in Canberra and having children. I had no family, no support. And my wife was over from Japan. She was on her own. And so I wanted to go back to Queensland and where I had mum, dad, brothers, sisters, all that sort of stuff up there. And so I broke. I left, and then I went to Queensland, and that was my first real move away from that. You know, I hadn't broken any political ties or any of that stuff. It's basically a change of scenery, if you know what I mean. And then I'd started to drift. Right, I eventually left the unions altogether. When I came to Queensland, I worked for the Federated Clerks Union, one of the largest union in Queensland. All your white collar clerical people all belong to that union. And eventually I left there, and then I worked in the corporate sector, where I was a senior executive in generally a director of industrial relations in mining, oil, gas, that sort of stuff. And they paid me a lot of money. And I used to manage all of their affairs, a lot of the British companies, American companies, and so on. And then I retired at the age of 55.
Right. You were saying earlier, that George Soros had sort of infected and infested the whole thing. What kind of things did you see while working within the unions that would lead you to draw that conclusion?
Well, big one was this. Look, the old left, the old communists, right, the hard, you mightn't have liked them and you mightn't have agreed with them of any of that. But let me say this. If you were a young woman and you worked or you were ever in the company of big men, left-wing communist men, you could be guaranteed that you were completely safe. And that if anyone ever laid a glove on you or touched you or abused you, that one of these big communist men would knock them out. That's what you could absolutely bank on. And so inside of the unions, it went from that work sort of environment where I then started getting reports on these new George Soros types that were coming in and taking over the union, that in fact, it was very dangerous for young women, very risky for young women to, they would be, they'd go out to social events after work and all that with these other union dudes, and they were not safe at all. And that really, I went, wow, that's a real culture shift. In fact, it's not just young women. I mean, I witnessed John Cummings, the Assistant Secretary of the Builders Labourers Federation in Victoria, in Melbourne, with a Down syndrome young guy who was making a complete arse of himself in the pub because he was drunk. And there were people in the pub that wanted to literally throw him out in his ear and kick him up the arse. And John Cummings said, "You lay one finger on him and I'll knock you fucking right out." He took that young guy outside and threw him in the back of a cab and gave the cabbie $20 and said, "Take him home." I mean, that's the sort of old left. We had a different set of values. The George Soros stuff, mate, is really bad. A lot of young women. You will hear of inside of the Liberal Party, Labor Party, you'll hear of rape and abuse and stuff like that of young women, vulnerable women, stuff like, well, this is happening a lot inside of the unions as well. And it never was allowed to ever happen, mate, ever, So that was one of the big things that I noticed.
Yeah. I think, for me, my hesitancy towards the whole communist thing definitely comes from that transformation. Like when I look at the history books, for instance, through the Bolshevik Revolution, there was a lot of people who were, they were in on what the traditional left value was, which is all the things you're talking about, looking after each other, the basic principle of a union to protect the workers from, and those face value constructs, I think are pretty prominent. A lot of people in my generation, I get, without ever having known it, I guess I always kind of leant towards those kind of traditional leftist values in the first place. But, when I started to see what the leftist values were becoming. And then I look at the history books of how things turned out in Russia, where, yeah, it started off as a great idea. Somewhere along the line, it got hijacked and turned into a full-blown dictatorship, you know, and it became the direct opposite of what it was supposed to be. And I think that's one of the scary things, you know. And I guess whilst we're in the midst of creating a new society, that's one of those you know, things we need to be mindful of too, is people trying to hijack good ideas and corrupt it, you know. And I think that's where, you know, I don't know, I've heard people say, you know, the biggest problem with socialism is dictators, but it's amazing how often socialism seems to lead to a dictatorship too. So have you sort of thought about, you know, ways to prevent that kind of hijack and dictatorship construct coming back into play?
Well, I mean, you know, that's up to the people of Australia. If they haven't had a good taste of it yet, then I say give them a fucking few more spoonfuls and let them really fucking taste it and see how they go, right? If they don't like what they're eating now, what they're chowing down on now, right, then fuck them. Let's give them a lot more of it and see how they go. Eventually, they'll end up saying no more. I'm not choking any more down, right? I can't do anything more than control my own conduct. That's it, right? That's it. I have no plans and I have no desire whatsoever for any socialist, communist, or any other system of control. I'm trying to dismantle, not build, right? Dismantle control systems, right? And they are coming down. They are being dismantled. Where Australia goes next, it's up to Australia, right? Really, it's up to Australia. All I know is that we have an infection in our country, and this infection, you know, it's got hold of us, and you know, we'll lose a leg or an arm, and we'll survive, you know, because this infection. But once the infection gets into our vital organs, we'll end up losing the fucking lot. We will lose everything, right? Everything, because that's what's at stake. And I'm sick of the retards out there who keep talking fucking small time shit, crap, absolute bullshit, right? Instead of fucking sticking to what really matters, right? Our matters is getting this belligerent occupation off our fucking backs and getting our sovereignty back. That's the first thing, and stop them from you know, attacking or stop this war upon our children, right? And that's all of them, whether my kids, your kids, or any other kids. That's it. If we don't do that, if we don't, you know, make our minds up that that's what has to be done, right? Now, in the middle of this, you've got a large group of people, and Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts, and Babbage, and Clyde Palmer, and all the rest of them out there. They are saying that they can fix this fucking shit up. That's what they're saying. And Como John is saying, no, you can't. It's all got to go. It's all got to fucking go. And we've got to rebuild this country as a free nation, right? Not as a socialist nation, not as a Freemason nation or a Catholic nation or any other nation, right? As a free country, as a free people. I will go with the majority, with the free people. That's where I will go. I am a populist. We have a national strike that we want to be populist. We don't want to go against the popular mood of the people. We don't want to work against their energy. We want to work with it. Okay.
Well, that's the essence of a democracy, is that.
That's right. That's right. So we're not trying to contain the energy. We're not trying to harness the energy for, you know, political purposes or any other purposes, mate. We just want this monkey off our fucking backs. We can fix anything in our country. Anything can be fixed once we've got our country, once we've got control. And until we do have that, you can bitch all you fucking like about everything until the cows come home, and nothing will change. Nothing. The only thing that's going to change in this country, it's going to get worse. And that's guaranteed. Guaranteed, mate. Okay. So when people finally get sick of it, they'll come and talk to me. And like I said, I don't like most of the people even out there. I don't like yous. You get me? And I know that you don't like me. But the facts of life are, mate, I need you. And you guys need me. You need me. Whether you fucking know it or not, ladies and gentlemen, you do. You need an old, tough old dude who knows his shit to run this and to pull this fucking machine up, mate. And I do this for a living. That's all I've ever done.
I think it's definitely a wonderful idea, grabbing all those years of experience of, you know, the things that you've done and the places you've been, you know, and I don't think, you know, you're going to find many people who would disagree that there's, you know, places like the CFMEU and various other unions 100% let the people down during this, you know, like to me, the whole idea of a union is, you know, hang on, they're trying to make me take a poison here so I can keep my job, guys. Where are you? I thought that's what we paid our membership to protect us, and they didn't. That was absolutely, you know, and to me, that was the ultimate demonstration that my theory that the unions had been completely hijacked was 100% true. That's when I knew for sure. You know, I mean, I was pretty confident beforehand, but that just confirmed it, you know. And, you know, like I've said to a lot of people, I've just been kicking back, waiting for everybody to wake the fuck up. We're still waiting for a lot of people. And I hear what you're saying. Hey, let them have another dose of the COVID poison and all the rest. But I don't think we can really afford to wait anymore for these people to wake up that haven't woken up yet, because they're going to start conscripting our children soon and sending them off to go and fight Russia unnecessarily. You know, I don't think we need to be fighting Russia in any way, shape, or form. To me, if we look at the world political stage, I believe America has created that scenario more than anything. You know, they've poked the Russian bear and poked it and poked it and poked it to the point where it's turned around and given them a good whack back. You know, and they seem to be somehow surprised. You know, it's madness. And, you know, like I said, it's my kids whose heads are on the chopping block. You know, like if they start doing this, you know, my two boys are of that fighting age. They're going to want to take them away. And I don't want to let that happen. No fucking way. Like you said, they'll be coming stepping over my dead body to get to them.
Look, I love the Russian people, Mark, and have loved them nearly all of my life. And I am now aware. I wasn't aware when we were young. There was no internet, mate. We didn't know what the fuck was going on with the Bolsheviks. We didn't know, right? So now, leaving all of the Bolsheviks and put all that stuff to one side, I'm talking about the Russian people. I love their folk songs, mate. I love their music. I love their drinking and their hard playing and their outdoorsy stuff. And look, all of the Russian friends that I have, none of them want any war with Australia or anyone else, mate. But you've got this fuck Joe Biden dude over in America, and whoever he is, mate, this lunatic, mate, and that's how wars are started. That's how wars are started, mate, when you get fucking idiots in power. And right now, you've got a lunatic idiot in Joe Biden, and then you come across to Anthony Albanese, and I mean, well, another more. Look, Anthony used to work for me in 1987, 1988. He used to work for me in my union. That's how long I've known him, right? He's not a smart cookie. He's not a smart cookie. I'm telling you. So,
no,
you know,
I think it's pretty painfully obvious that he's not a smart cookie.
When you have stupid people in power, Mark, dangerous things can happen.
Yeah, you're not smart enough to see that the decisions he makes now are going to have certain consequences. You know, I personally, I think he's in it for himself. I don't know, like you know him better than I do. Would you say that he's just doing what he's told for his own personal gain at this point?
Look, he's George Soros operative, mate. Full stop. Full stop. What you have is a couple of big factions in the Labor Party backed by the unions, right? Remember, the unions are the money launderers, mate. Billions of dollars in money laundering, right? To all tax free. Now you have the Fabian Society, a left wing political grouping, and then you have another sort of pro-abortion list called Emily's List, and all of the women that Penny Wong and Plibisek, they're all childless women who fully support the live killing of children who are born live and killing them. So they're all Emily List people, but ultimately they all go back to, you know, open societies, the American, what do they call it, family planning, and all of this shit. and they pull all of the strings. They tell them what they must do. Anthony Albanese is basically a useful idiot to global power sources. Now, who keeps him in control? Okay, well, you've got political Zionism, you've got Freemasonic power structures, you've all, as I said, you've got the Fabian Society and others. I mean, Australians have got no idea about how remote and how voiceless they truly are in this country. No idea. This country is run by a real cabal, mate. And basically it's coming down. And what they want to do is they want to chop and dice the same shit and feed it back to us, because they know that Klaus Schwab's Great Reset is all coming down. They know it. And they know that it's not going to get up. They don't have the horsepower to run over the top of us, and they don't have the gas in the tank to outlast us. Finally, the situation is turning, as we are now seeing. It's turning, right? And so I say to all of you, our danger now is not whether or not we're going to win or lose this war. The danger now is whether or not we win the fucking war, only then to go on and rebuild the same fucking shit that we've just spent 5 years fighting against and trying to get out of. And that's the trap.
That's definitely one of my big concerns, is that, you know, we end up with more of the same, you know.
You just mentioned socialism, Mark. You just says, how do we prevent it? Well, I'm simply saying to you, brother, the trap is this, that we get out of a communist, New World Order, socialist communist system, only then to fall into a new one. Yeah, that's the fucking trap, brother.
Yeah, so that's where, you know, I like what you're proposing. Did you want to mention more about the union sort of idea that you had, or because I know we spoke about that the other day?
No, look, I can talk only briefly on this to all of your audience, for everyone out there. Look, I've on our website, right, I pay a lot of money for this web and the software that goes in behind it at the back end, okay? We've got about 9,000 signatories there, active national strikers, and it's growing. Every day it's growing, right? At the back end, in the last 30 days, we're getting up around 140,000 site visits who come to our website and who spend on average about 18 minutes going through all of our strike uploads and our strike material. So we have a lot of interest out there, huge. Now, I am being and have been contacted by a whole bunch of people, right? And they have prevailed upon me saying, look, John, what is needed, the ingredient that is needed to really make the national strike viral and very, very successful, is if a new national Australian trade union is launched with you running it and leading it, right, to supplement and to take hold of the national strike and to provide protections and so on in these strike actions. Now, I've agreed to do so. I've agreed, and for your audience out there, I've agreed that I am going to launch a new national Australian trade union, and it's coming up in the next few weeks. So for all your audience out there, Mark, keep your eyes and ears open. If you really want to be kept abreast of everything, go to the webpage and sign up, because I send regular emails out and I keep people advised. That's why I ask people to give us your details, just your name, postcode and your email. That's it, so I can communicate with you and let you know. But a new national Australian trade union is going to be launched in the next few weeks, Mark, and it's going to really be a fucking turning point here, not only in the freedom movement, but here in Australia. Okay, I put everyone on notice. Great things. It will have great things. Okay, so keep your eyes and ears open. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
Not a worry, man. I like when you mentioned that to me, I thought, Stroke, that's exactly what we need. You know, like, there's a lot of people who still, you know, depend on the support of
Yeah.
something like the union, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, already I can see a political divide happening where I think it was the CFMEU were making a move to sort of take more control over the Labor Party, as the Labor Party has split into a left-right faction in itself, you know, whether you got your far lefties and then you got your traditional leftists like yourself who have just woken up and gone, hang on, I didn't sign up for this transgender shit and all this other
Yep.
weird stuff. I just want to keep my job and make sure I'm not going to get, you know,
That's
killed
it.
while working. You know,
That's
they're
it.
just standard average Aussie blokes. They certainly don't want to be told they can't go hunting and fishing and whatnot because we've got to save the environment. And they don't want to see their wonderful hunting grounds turned into friggin' windmill farms and all this sort of shit either. You know, so and I think they're starting to realize that within the Labor movement and you know the Labor Party itself, that they've just, I don't know what the hell they were thinking, obviously trying to get as many different types of people in as possible, but it's tearing itself apart because they've focused on such a minority group, you know, that the majority are going, if that's the way you want to go, see you later. So this seems like an opportune moment to kick them while they're down.
Yeah, look, Mark, you've got to understand the two options that I and my team, and I can't speak highly enough of the team of people that I now work with, right? The two options to register this new union is this. One, I register with GovCorp. Okay. Now, if I try to do that, I'll see you in 5 years, and it just won't happen if I try. Right. Now, I either do that or I register this under common law, and I register it on a register which has got the highest lawful standing, and that's what I've now done. Now, it brings, by me doing this and setting this union up and registering it and engineering it the way I have, it brings with it some huge lawful protections. Okay. Now, what it needs is some muscle. Okay. It's got all the lawful protections like you wouldn't believe. Now, if I've got 1,000 members, I've only got this much muscle. But if you give me 100,000 members, I can tell you now, I will weaponize that muscle, and I will guarantee that if anyone encroaches, if anyone trespasses on any of my union's members' freedoms or their property, then we're gonna cut their fucking head off, stick it on a pike, and put it up outside of town as a warning to all the rest of them. You leave us alone. It's coming. Give me time. Give me time, Mark. Give me time. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. I'm working with a fantastic team. This has got great, solid legal standing. Right, great, and it's going to be well led. There's going to be no silliness. It's going to be serving a very confined purpose. We're not going to be used for any issues here or over there. It's very clear, no bullshit. And if I can get the numbers, and already, you've got to understand, there's 1.5 million active financial union members in Australia right now. And right now, all the way till the end of this year, they are all finding out how badly they were betrayed over the vax and everything else. And they've got nowhere to go. They've got nowhere to go. And I want to give them a new home. And I'm saying between now and Christmas that I can get 1 million new union members in my union between now and Christmas. And that's only with about 2/3 of what's already there. That's not the workforce. Already we had 1 million plus in Canberra. If I get 2 million new, but I'm simply saying to you that the vision and the capabilities of what this union can do, it can literally move Australia off its stumps. That's how powerful this new union can be. So please, everyone, keep your eyes and ears open. Big things to come, right? I'm sick of all this other nonsense that's going on, mate. I'm sick of it. Lightweight goes nowhere. It's all circular. It's all talk, or smear, and all this sort of nonsense, mate. I can't handle it anymore. I bring to the table, I say, what I say I can do it. I've done this stuff before, right? So please, whether it's industry super funds, whether it's big stuff, I've been involved in this stuff. I didn't want to do it. I was hoping I could just support someone else, but I can't. I've got to roll my sleeves up and do it my bloody self, and so I'm doing it. Okay, thanks, Michael. That's it for me.
Totally hear what you're saying there, mate, because truth, I'd rather be playing with the kids right now, you know, going fishing and having a beer and whatnot, but I've dedicated all my spare time to putting the North Queensland Freedom Network together, because having been in the mainstream media and realizing how horrendously inadequate it is as a news source, you know, I mean, somebody had to step up and do something. So
yeah,
I've taken that role on myself. You know, somebody's got to. We need an alternative platform for people like yourself to come in and, you know, express your ideas. Mainstream ain't going to talk to you. You know, as you said, Facebook has shut you down, and they've shut down Cafe Lockdown. We're going to 10-year ban. Well, not so much a 10-year ban. Look, the page is still there. You just can't do anything for 10 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, mate. I mean, they bashed me so often. I kept going back under aliases and all sorts of stuff, and they just wore me out. They wore me out, and so Telegram is where I found a home. And now, when you combined, you know, my personal channel, then 2,500 in the chat, and then the National Strikes channel, like there's about 10,000 there. Yeah, if I can cross promote North Queensland Freedom, I will. I don't want anything out of this. I'm happy to promote North Queensland Freedom Network and give you guys maximum audience. You know.
Thanks, man. Much appreciated. That's why I do what I do. And like, I mean, with the exception of a handful of Patreons and a couple of really good people that have stood behind and gone, here, take some money. How can I help? I don't know what else to do, you know. So those good people have helped sort of fund this and, you know, make me get out of bed and keep going, because, you know, like there's not a great deal of reward, but I enjoy the conversation, you know, just to sit down and have a yarn with someone like yourself and nut out ideas of how we can do things, you know, and put those ideas out to the people and get that the pub test going, so to speak, you know. Like, I mean, and Sips, this is our pub tonight, ladies and gentlemen, where we sit down and we and we nut out these ideas of how we can fix this shithole that our once beautiful country has become. So, you know, I do get a kick out of doing what I'm doing. That's for sure. Like, I mean, as much as I'd rather, you know, beer in one hand, a smoke if I could afford it, and a fishing rod, you know, sitting out in the bay, that's what I'd rather be doing. But thanks to our wonderful Labor government, as I was saying to you earlier, I think that's, to me, one of the most obvious things that the Labor government does not give a fuck about the worker anymore. Is when you go down and you buy a carton of piss and a pouch of rolly weed or whatnot, and you walk out $200 less than you walked in. Like, that's just bullshit.
Yeah, I know that my mum and dad with 10 kids would have starved. I mean, look. I went to Sydney. I had to do a road tour. Ended up in Sydney. I stopped overnight with a single mum in Sydney. Right now, she works in executive class, right? But she's paying rent as a single mum with 2 kids. $1,100 a week rent for a house, a normal house.
How the hell
and it's way out. Now I went up to Noosa to do a public meeting. I went up to Umundi, a beautiful town up on the Sunshine Coast, to get a cup of coffee. As I walked past the real estate, I looked at the houses for rent, and there was a lovely house in there on 2 acres for rent, $1,000 a week, Sunshine Coast. How the fuck can people pay that?
Yeah.
How the hell can anyone like? I don't know. I mean, I live on my boat, right? Okay, this is how I survive. I live right in the middle of Brisbane on the river in a marina, but I live on my own boat, fully self-sufficient, everything here. But I pay $300 a week to park my boat here. I don't know if I had to go and rent here a unit or something, I'd be paying $800-900 a week. How can people up the river from Mark, up the river from me, along the riverbank, there are hundreds of homeless people. When you get up on the river to Musgrave Park, there's hundreds of them up there homeless. I mean, I never thought it was possible to fuck a state like Queensland up. I never thought it was possible. So beautiful, so plentiful, so bountiful was this state, mate. I couldn't believe anyone. But these belligerent, bloody United Nations, World Economic Forum fleas, these governments, successive governments, mate, have done it. They fucking near destroyed this state. Can't believe it. I can't believe it.
And it didn't take them long.
No.
I mean, it's only been about 40 years. Pretty much from my entire life, I've just watched the entirety of society just plummet. You know, and while listening to the remnant stories from, you know, those of the generations before telling me how wonderful things used to be in the good old days. And, you know,
Mark, I grew up in the 1960s here in Brisbane and southeast Queensland, right? Toowoomba, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, all of these places. I'm telling you, every fucking yard had chickens in it. Every yard had a mango tree. Every yard had a pawpaw tree. Every second yard had a banana tree. Every yard had fucking veggie gardens and herb gardens and you name it. And every season you could go and do all the mullet nettings. They had huge schools of mullet running up the Pummelstone Passage at Bribey Island, over on Stradbroke Island. We had mud crabs up and down, right where my boat is now, mate. Used to throw mud crabs out and go pull in fucking 2-kilo mud crabs. It's all gone. You know, up at Budrum on the Sunshine Coast, all the whole neighbourhood pulled their front fences down, all their front yards and their footpaths. They converted them into vegetable gardens. Dozens and dozens of people, streetscapes of free food. You know what the council did? They come and pulled it all out and wood chipped the lot of it. That was the Maroochydore City Council. They would chip the lot of it. They said, oh, it's against our insurance policy. We have had food growing everywhere here, mate. You used to walk along the footpath and pick a fucking kilo fucking mango, mate, and sit down under a shady tree and have it. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I mean, we have got all of our resources all going overseas, mate, all of our beef, all of our seafood, all of our fresh fucking fruit, and they give us back their rotten, poison, GMO garbage. I can't believe it. We've allowed this to develop here. This is we are in a mess here, Mark. And
I agree.
We've got to be able to put aside this bullshit stuff and come up with a way forward. I mean, you know, this division that exists out there is not personalities. It's not egos. It's engineered. It's engineered. There is a fault line within the freedom movement, and I'm the only one pointing it out. And I'm not arguing. Look, I like Pauline Hanson. I like Malcolm Brown. I like these people personally. It's got nothing to do with personalities with me. I'm an old communist. You are either useful or you're not. And if you're not useful, you know, in our freedom and to saving our kids and that, then I don't have any time for you. That's it. That's it. These people are defending the existing system. I mean, Billy Bay, and I love Billy. This is another guy, Dr. Billy Bay, right? I love it, Billy. But he's done an upload last night on Twitter saying, you know, I've got this court case and this, and I trust the courts, and the courts are going to give me a fair deal. I'm saying, are you fucking insane, Billy? Are you insane? They are corporation courts. They're all owned and operated by the Freemasons. And you think you're going to get justice and a remedy? You're joking. And so this is the fracture line, Mark. This is where I split. I say, and it's got nothing to do with personalities or ego, right? I don't have any of this ego shit anymore. I've done all of my big dick swinging years ago. I've done it. I've had all the power. I mean, I've had all of the political, economic, industrial power. It was a burden to carry back then when I was young, and it's a burden for me to carry now, and I don't like it, right? But I do know how to carry it. That's the difference, right? That's the difference. I mean, this can go to people's heads very easy, but, you know, I'm too old and too seasoned for this to go to my head, mate. I know exactly what I'm doing. I bring a lot of experience and a very calm and thought through war game on how to put this together, Mark.
Yeah. Look, I agree. I think, it is one hell of a shit show that we've got here. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said we've allowed it,
Yeah.
And it's one of those sad things I've been trying to say for a long time to a lot of people who didn't want to hear it. But, I'm starting to come around now, which is good. That it's all good and well for you guys to want to keep going down this ridiculous path, but you have to drag me along with it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go watch this shit happen, and there's a selfishness to that, your blind ignorance, your desire to maintain the system is very selfish because you're dragging the rest of the country down with your stupidity, and that pisses me off to no end, But I've had to painfully sit back and watch for decades, waiting for people to wake the fuck up. Because like you said, without the numbers, it's you're just going to get, taken out pretty quickly. So, but and on the William Bay thing, look, I'd like to see that the courts will give him justice, but at the very least, if it doesn't, he's publicly demonstrated that there is no justice in this system. And every time someone goes, look, all right, fine, we'll play it your way and we'll use your rule book and we'll see how it goes. And when it goes and pear-shaped, all it does is cement that this system really is corrupt and really does need to be changed. So even in a situation there where it might seem, a little bit bleak or perhaps pointless, I can still draw a positive from it. So every time someone goes up against the system or tries to use the system and it fails, it's like, well, there you go. There's the proof. How many more times do you need to be seen? Do you need to see that something's got to give, something's got to change?
Yeah.
So we're at an hour and 40 now, so I might come and have a look at some of these starred comments, and we'll get some questions going. So I'll just grab a hold of this comments for a brief moment, guys, while we bring up the first question. So, John, have strikes happened quickly in the past, or is there an exception? I'm going to add the word there in there because I feel it should be there.
Look, strikes take all sorts of forms, and like you can have a wildcat strike, instantaneous, right, in the middle of something very, very important. They call that a wildcat strike. Okay, you can have other strike where like an overtime strike, right, where you work exactly. They call it work to rule strike. Right, where you work 38 hours a week and not 1 minute more. And in certain industries, they can't function unless people work regular overtime. They can't work. And so that takes time, takes several weeks for it to have an effect, but it has effects. Okay, so strike action, withdrawal of labour, or other strike actions, like some strike actions might be what the Americans would call a consumer boycott, right? Okay, Bud Light, if you remember Bud Light, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that was, Americans are great or a lot better at consumer boycotts than Australians are. But Australians are much better at strike actions than Americans are. So, but in some strike actions that I've been involved in, it has involved consumer boycott type actions. Okay, so strike actions do not have to be one form this way or that way. It really is it depends on what the fit is, what the circumstances are. Like if, as an example, it's a life and death safety situation, it's got to be immediate. The circumstances demand that you pull the pin straight away and you withdraw labour. Okay, but if it's not, if it's a different set of circumstances, then you can apply different tactics. Okay, I hope that helps.
Tiffany asks, what is the goal / strategy of this national strike? I kind of feel like it was the whole basis of the show, but maybe we can wrap that up in a few words.
Look, to remove a belligerent occupation and keep our kids safe. That's the purpose at the end of the day. And we are doing that by laying siege, right? By building and laying siege to this belligerent occupation through layer upon layer of strike actions.
Jake Soy says, John, do you think that the traditional approach to industrial action would work in our current climate?
No, I don't. Look, this strike, you've got to understand, this is the first strike in history ever that I've known of, right? Normally, every strike that I've ever been involved in or am aware of, it's always been about, we want more. We want more money. We want, more of what you got, whatever it may well be, right? Okay, not this strike. This strike is all about, we don't want anything off you. We don't want your money, your fiat currency. We don't want your big pharma. We don't want your corporate media. We don't want your belligerent occupation. So the purpose of the strike, the whole motivation of the strike is not, as opposed to all other historicals saying, we want more of what you have. This strike is saying, we don't want anything that you have. Get out. If that, so will a traditional, no, it won't work in these conditions. No.
Very good. I like the way you put that. That's sums it up quite well. Common law, just another system. What's the difference? Well, again, the common law thing is fundamentally do no harm, as I understand it. It's, particularly if you tuned in last week, as we discussed, that from, grabbing the sovereignty of the indigenous people to give it support too, which is, I mean, I don't know how you feel, John, but when I look at the common law situation, it's kind of like, well, you're just doing what has already been done on this land before. You haven't, what authority do you have to do this? Which is where I felt sort of moving towards the tribal people who have the sovereignty of the land and to speak for the system. They're pushing towards a common law construct and an affiliation with the land and and the people being of the land and all that. It's a very lefty kind of a view, in a sense, where we're all one and we're all part of the land and all that sort of stuff. And then you mix the common law in with that. To me, that looks like our best sort of legal structure in my mind. What are your thoughts, mate?
Look, I really don't care where Australia ultimately, the Australian population ultimately want to go with their country and what systems they want to live under. Ultimately, I don't care, right? It's their choice, right? If they believe common law is the way to go, right, and all of that stuff, right, then I don't have any problem with any of that, right? Okay. All I am concerned about for now is to get rid of a belligerent occupation that's murdering us, right? That's enslaving and murdering us. Now, once the belligerent occupation has been removed, once it goes, right, my remit is over. I have discharged my duties, right, as far as the national strike action is concerned. Go and read the motion. That's it. I've discharged my duties. The belligerent occupation has been removed. Okay. Now, we go from a government corporation occupation. We got to go somewhere, right, back or forward or somewhere, right? I'm okay. I trust the Australian people, right, in what direction. Like, obviously, I don't want to go towards a communist, socialist or dictatorial type system or anything like it. I don't want any of that, right? But I'm trusting the Australian people are not going to support that, right? Now, is common law the best system? Well, I like it. I think common law is fine for me, and I would be quite happy to live with common law, do no harm, like you say. I don't have any problem with that, right? I'm a new Christian. I haven't read any of the Bible in my entire life, right? I've only been a Christian for about 2 years, right? But I mean, I'd rather live by the 10 Commandments than 50,000 pages of GovCorp bureaucratic bullshit, right? Yeah. I can understand the 10 Commandments. Yeah. So I can live by God's law, the 10 Commandments, and I can live by common law. And I have no, and all of the people who I know are connected with the common law family have been tremendous people. They've been, and they've been fighting the good fight against the system. So I applaud all of them. But ultimately, where Australia goes and what direction it takes and all the rest of it, I've only got one vote, and I'll vote and I will have my say about it. But you know, I'm going to go with the rest of the country, whichever direction it takes. I'm hoping that we can, like, one, shake off the GovCorp shit, get rid of that, and two, then go back onto some sort of constitutional law and order, because at the moment we have no law and order. We have gangsters and crime syndicates posing as law enforcement, and that's got to be cleaned up. So, you know, at somewhere along the line, you know, these crime syndicates that are running Australia and secret societies, we got to get rid of them. You know, that's my focus, right? I don't want to win any of these common law arguments and all the rest of it. I want to win a war, and I want to get rid of the belligerent occupation. I mean, for fuck's sake, that's our priority, not whether or not we agree on some, you know, some theory or some, you know, that's down the track. We can talk about that. Let's put our shoulder to the wheel and get this monkey off our backs.
Definitely. I think you make a good point, and something I'm hoping to emphasize here is that there's so many things that need to be sort of dealt with, you know, and our next question is going to sort of lead into this scenario too. But, you know, I mean, I felt I could do something like the North Queensland Freedom Network. That's what I felt the calling was. You can call it God, you can call it, you know, alien intervention. You know, I don't really care what you call it. you know, the Force. That's a good one. I always like to use that one because, you know, I get amusement out of it more than anything. But you know, at the end of the day, I felt a calling. I went North Queensland Freedom Network, and I created my little media pocket because that's what I know how to do. And you, John, well, you know unions. You know how to get that sort of thing going, and the you know, strike actions and all that. So you've stepped in and gone, hey, this new society needs a bit of that, you know. And I want to at this point emphasize this to the audience. I want you to think about, what do you know, what are you good at, and what can you bring to this table, instead of just sitting back waiting for somebody to tell you, or somebody to you know, guide you. You know, be your own guide. You know, you know, I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have that the Christian sort of thing, or Catholic, or a God of some sort, or a spiritual sort of connection of one way, something or another. I know there's a lot of Indigenous out there watching this network, you know, because of the work I've done with them, who feel a big connection with the land, and they have their own cultural identity too. So whatever that is, and whatever it is that gives you strength, that's what makes you unique, and tap into that and bring it to the table. You know, like, only when we mix these wonderful ideas together are we going to have, you know, a good solution, in my mind. And that leads us to the next question, which I think we can sum up pretty quickly. How can we change MSN to tell the truth and support our cause? I believe leaving them behind, stop watching their shit, and tune into the North Queensland Freedom Network would be a better way to go.
Yes. I mean, there is no other solution but literally to build your own outside of their rot, and then redirect your energy. Okay, let it die on the vine. Look, corporate media right now is all but a dead body hanging on a butcher's hook. We have murdered you, Mark, me, and millions of other ordinary people in the last 5 years have absolutely destroyed corporate media. Its viewership, its impact. I mean, it's held in complete disdain, and you know, people hate them now. So I'm not the least bit, you know, worried about the corporate media anymore. We are the new media. I mean, look, I've seen Julian Assange now lining up to have an interview with Tucker Carlson. If that happens here in Australia, he will get 200 or 300 million views. You get me? He done an interview with Trump that got 100+ million views. Now, CNN and these people get 2 million. 2 million. These guys are getting 200 million. I mean, fair dinkum, mate. Don't worry about corporate media. We have absolutely hollowed them out. They are the real. Look, again, I say this, Mark, and with the deepest sincerity, the danger for us is killing corporate media and then going on and rebuilding exactly the same business model inside of the alt media, which is what's happened. We have got the same choke points, the same censorship, the same crap inside of the truther alt media that was in the corporate media. Exactly the same. We have rebuilt it exactly the same. I mean, I'm telling you now, the community voices that you give a voice to, Mark, are never going to get a voice in those big channels, ever.
No.
Okay? You are never going to have fire ants and local issues or whatever broadcasted on any of these big channels. That's why you need a fucking union. That's why a union has to exist. Because if we leave it up to these choke points that are currently there now, I can assure you they are going to all steer everyone back saying, oh, the system's been fixed. It's all been fixed. Resubmit back to it. And that's the way it's going to go. Right? Big trap here, fellas. I say this from the bottom of my heart, Mark, because if I was still an old communist, that's exactly the fucking trap I'd lay for everyone. I would lay that trap. So I'm saying don't walk into it. It's a bear trap. You put your foot in this, you're going to get your whole leg taken. You watch it.
That's it.
I mean, look, the entire deep state, you've got government. We know who they are. You have shadow government, right? You've got shadow government, right? That's all your long-term bureaucrats, your long-term judges, your long-term courts, your long-term cops, all that stuff. And then you got your deep state. Your deep state are all your election fixers, all your money launderers, all your union operatives, all of that deep state. And that deep state now is a big infection inside the freedom movement. We have them everywhere inside the freedom movement, mate. And it's not just me pointing all this stuff out. It's a lot of smart cookies, right? Communists study all of this stuff, mate. We study it. After all the Occupy Wall Street stuff, all the Canberra stuff that happened in Canberra, we spend weeks going over who said what, who done what, and unpacking all of it so we can analyse the lot of it, whether it was law enforcement that hijacked it or whether or not it was another fringe group or whatever the case may be. We study this. We treat it very seriously. Canberra was hijacked. Canberra was hijacked and snuffed out. And ever since Canberra, the last 2 or 3 years, there's just been this continual infighting and engineered division. Now we're down to smears, right? Personality smears and stuff. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I mean, we can do better than this.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's where we've got to come together. That's why I like to offer this platform to anyone who's got an idea, wants to come in. Even if they're a shill, sooner or later, we'll figure them out.
Yeah.
That's it. We just got to give everybody a chance to say their thing and prove their worth. And if they don't, then we know where they are. Yep,
that's right. I'm on the public record, mate.
Hippie Stuff says, hi, John, long-time watcher, first-time commenter. That sounds so cliche. I'm sorry. Anyway, not to pick on you, Hippie Stuff. Do you have a plan to manage the guru situation? Also, couldn't find your Crazy John's phone plan online. Where to find it? I'm not familiar with either of those questions. Perhaps you can enlighten us.
Look, a lot of the smear stuff that's going down, mate, is coming from a group of people who have got this axe to grind against Rick Bosey, and I have said I've made two comments on all of it, right? And the last comment was that I didn't want to talk any more about it because it was so cringeworthy and so embarrassing that I didn't want to add anything more to it. And that's still my final word on the matter, right? I don't want to talk. This is unbelievably cringeworthy and embarrassing, all of this stuff, right? I don't want to give it any airtime.
Okay. So am I just because I've got no idea, I haven't been paying much attention to the Ricardo situation. So I'm guessing Guru is in the guy that's usually on the podcasts with Ricardo. Has there been some sort of a friction sort of scenario happening there?
Oh, look, there's been a public falling out between the two, and Yeah. And Ben, look, this is all out there. I'm not saying there's been a public
Oh,
falling out.
only so much one man can look into. I'm focused in on doing what I'm doing, you know.
No, well, you haven't missed much, mate. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You haven't missed much. It's all pretty cringeworthy and embarrassing. But it's
Wow.
been a falling out, and like all times when husband and wife falls out, you know what it's like. You get this allegations being made. Well, there's all this smear and allegations being made, right? And it's so embarrassing, right? It's cringeworthy stuff, and so. I don't want to give it for me, right? Because man, oh man, I've got my mind set on what this belligerent occupation is doing. They're killing people, and they're still killing people. They are still trying to enslave. They are really. Their police are killing us everywhere up here in Queensland. We have courts, councils, cops, everyone off the leash. I'm saying, what the fuck are we arguing about this shit for? What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Look, Mark, you'd agree with this, that each week you've only got a certain amount of airtime, certain amount of time in your week that you can dedicate stuff to, right? You can't be wasting. I don't have time where I can waste, right? And all of this stuff over these guys are soaking up so much time with crap. It's just crap. And it breaks my heart to fucking listen to this bullshit. So, like the television corporate media, I just turn it off. I turn it off. I don't want to listen to it.
No, fair enough. Let's not waste any more time on that. Then we've got important things to deal with. Dramatic change is coming very shortly, and it requires unity of all Commonwealth subjects as per the Constitution 1901 preamble. It is indissoluble, which means the people are the crown. That's not a question. Why did that one get started? That's a statement.
Yeah, look, it's a great point. It's a great point. Look, again, for everyone out there, please rise above a lot of the nonsense, right? And look for that common ground that's going to help all of us leverage off each other's strengths, right? Leverage, right? And the national strike and this new national union that's coming is going to fit into all of that. Beautiful. It's going to be a nice, tight fit. And I say this, don't wait. Look, you need to have one more fight left in you, Australia. You need to have one more fight. I know you're tired. I know you're broke. I know they've worn you down. These are all Fabian war tactics they've deployed against you to take your resolve away. But you've got to have one more fight left in you. But don't waste it. Don't give this last fight to these pissant fucking nobodies who are going to waste it, who are going to squander it. Give that last fight to me, to Commo John, because I swear, if you give that last fight to me, last fight that you've got, give it to me, I'll make it worthwhile. I will make it count. And I can assure you I know what I'm doing, okay? So please trust me. I'm going to announce some big things to come. But rise above the nonsense, mate, and try to come together, folks. This union is going to give you exactly that, okay? Please.
How far back should we revert our laws to, though? That's obviously going back for what was that? That was at 8:30. So that was half an hour ago. But look, I think what you said earlier before, man, just going through, right? Useless. Fuck it off. Good, keep it. Nah, that's fuck. Get rid of it. Oh, can we fix this one? Yeah, we'll put that in the repair basket. Yeah, simple, straightforward. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, fuck it off.
I've got like 2,000 line items, budget line items. This is me and my team. Everything they allocate. There's stuff we don't know. They have black budget stuff. I can't do anything about that. I can't see it. It's black budget. But everything they have, line by line by line, with a dollar amount. You switch it on, right? You leave it, you turn it off, you get rid of it and defund it, or you replace it. You defund it, get rid of it, and you replace it with your own whatever you want. And we've done all of this, and after going through everything, over 65% of every single thing these bastards do, if you turned it all off It would not make one single material difference to any Australian out there. I'm telling you. That's how remote and removed government is from our well-being.
Yeah, there's so many useless departments, particularly with the Labor Party. Like I think I can't remember exactly the number, but I read something. I think it was either this week or last week, saying that the Labor government has created hundreds of new useless bloody jobs and departments, and it's all coming back to us, the taxpayer, that has to pay for that. You know,
correct,
madness.
Correct.
Where do we look for this union? I'm going to guess we keep an eye on your website and sign up for more information.
Look, the best way, Mark, is to sign up for the national strike vote. Get your name there. Once you're there, right, anything that's going to happen with the union, you will be the first to know about it. You will get an email from me with everything explained. That's the best way. It is not live yet. You've got to understand, I need still another 4 weeks or so to do a formal announcement.
John, can non-workers join?
Yes.
I would assume so.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. There is only, look, there are two preconditions, right, to be a member of the union. One, you must be born in Australia, or you have made a decision to make Australia your permanent home. If you fulfill any of those, you are eligible. Whether or not you are a housewife or whether or not you are a professional, you do not have to be like a tradie or any of that stuff, mate. This is open to all Australians, okay? Watch what we're going to do and how we're going to do this. I've just finished the constitution of the union. I'm now working on the rules and of the union, the operating rules now. I've got to finalise all of that stuff. And then go finish the registration process and other things. So I still need a few more weeks, right? The answer is yes, you can join. You don't have to be working on wages or salary, okay? You can join. There will be a joining fee. It will be relatively modest, okay? And you know, we're going to muscle up. This is the first genuine attempt within the freedom movement since Canberra, to mobilise and muscle up a rank and file, pushback. This is the first genuine attempt. Okay, all right.
Awesome. And I think that's an important question, because I think, you know, a lot of people probably have in their mind union, I need, you know, that's part of a job sort of a scenario. But as you pointed out, this isn't a typical, you know, situation here. This isn't we're trying to grab more of something. We're trying to get rid of something.
That's it. So that's it. Yeah,
very important question. It might have seemed a bit silly, but I think it's a very important one, because I can see where people get confused.
No, look, there's a saying, I think Bruce Lee said it, that a dumb person can learn nothing from a very wise question, but a wise person can learn a hell of a lot from a dumb question, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how silly some of these questions seem. Ask them. Ask them.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the only way to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my job as the national spokesman is to bring people with me and with the strike, and to grow this organically. And that means not talking down to people and, you know, being, you know, too far above people. You know, that's the opposite.
Yeah, definitely. Can we join if we have no money?
That might be an issue, because there will be a joining fee, but there will be a payment plan. So if you need to pay something off, right, the answer is we can help maybe with that. We're putting that together. If you've got no money at all, it's going to be a bit of an issue, okay, because there will be a joining fee to join the union. It's a fee. Look, national strike right now, we are running on a zero budget. I've put everything up, right? I'm like $25,000 in of my personal money I've committed, right? So we are not asking for donations for any of it, none of it, right? All being done by volunteers, right? But not the union. The union is a fee-for-service organisation. You pay to join, and you get the benefits and the protections that come with it, right? If you don't pay, you don't get it, right? That's the way fee-for-service works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't go into McDonald's and get a burger for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, look, the joining fee we're talking, and you know, we've got to go through how much is it going to cost for us to service all of this. But we are now looking at a once up like a joining fee, right? To a yearly subscription of $200, right? And $200 is what maybe $5 a week or something like that. You know, people can afford a couple of hundred. If they need to pay that off, then we'll help them.
No worries. What's John's Telegram? That's a good question.
Look, go to National Strike Australia on Telegram. Okay, look for that. And there's a chat there as well. Go and look for that. I've got my own personal channel as well. And if you ask the question, people will just show you where it is rather than me going over it on air. But go into Telegram and you will get all great information there, mate. There is a fantastic community.
So you got two sites there. They look like they're both relatively legit. The same thing. We got one at National Strike Australia and the other one National Strike Australia Chat.
That's it. That's it. Yes.
Yeah. So they're both of those. So
yes.
One's just. So I'm going to guess the first one, National Strike Australia, will be sort of just where you comment and not the other one's an open chat.
Yeah, National Strike Australia is where we post all of our information and uploads, right? There is no chat, right? But you go, if you want to chat, you go to the second channel, which is the chat room, okay? The chat room is connected.
Strike Australia chat, like
yeah, that's where you go. Go and join there, right? And ask questions, and if you want to know your way around,
too. Cool, no worries. So I'll just join those myself. Relatively easy to find, people. I didn't even get to finish writing the word strike in before it came up in the search. So just type in National Strike. But if I can be resourceful, let's see if I can. I don't use Telegram enough to be quick about this. I just type it in. So for those of you who want to be extremely lazy, here it is. Just grab that I've just punched into the chat there, and you should find it on Telegram. Like I said, I got the word National Strut, and we were in. So it should be relatively easy for anyone to find on Telegram. Okay, can we have some links for the Telegram? We just did that one. Can you put the strike link in the comments? Yeah. Look, I'll do it again. Copy, paste. There you go. There's the National Strike. Actually, you've done that from Rumble. So let me just quickly open up the Rumble pages, and we will chuck them in there as well. There you go, guys. I keep forgetting that things don't come up on the Rumble one from here. Let's turn that one off. Are you doing all the way with Billy Bay, Como?
No, I mean, look, I like Billy. I love him. Great guy, man. Billy's a man of faith. He's a Christian brother. So I'm not speaking any ill will. But no, Billy and I have a fracture line. Billy thinks he can fix this shit up, and I don't think you can, right? We disagree. And because we disagree on this very fundamental point, right, we don't have to hate each other. We don't have to argue or any of this sort of stuff. But let's get it out in the open and talk it through. And if 80% of Australia all want to fix it up and all want to resubmit themselves back to the same shit, then do it. I can't stop that. I'm only one person, right? I have a right to be engaged and have an opportunity to participate in the national debate, the national discussion, which is what I'm doing. And I'm saying you can't fix this stuff up. You can't, right? It all has to be dismantled. I don't mean by way of anarchy or craziness, but it has to be dismantled. It's all unlawful. It's all unconstitutional. Mostly it's a controlled system. It serves no other purpose than to control us and disenfranchise us of our rights. So all of these institutions have to be dismantled, and we have to rebuild. Now, again, our only protection going forward is an educated and street-savvy, smart population. Because if we're not educated, if we learn no lessons out of what we've just been through, then if you don't know your own history, you're going to go and repeat the same shit, and that's what we will do. London to a brick. We've already done it in the alt media. In the alt media right now, exactly the same censorship, exactly the same choke points and personalities and egos and all the rest of it exist inside of the alt media than existed in corporate media. Exactly the same. And what we've done is we've just rebuilt the same shit. Ordinary people are not getting a voice. I mean, I know people who are getting fire ant poison, and it's doing all sorts of damage to their animals and to the river and everything else. And I've got other people whose bees are being poisoned and all the rest. None of these people can get a voice or very, much.
They
these
can hear.
local issues. Yeah. I'm going to point them here, brother.
Yeah, definitely. Send them my way, man. And love to talk to them.
Yeah. These people, mate, they deserve our attention just as much as, all the Ukraine stuff and everything else. I mean, look, another guy that I love, a guy called Aussie Cossack, right? Now, Aussie Cossack, who's holed up inside of the Russian consulate, who's got diplomatic protection. He can broadcast whatever he fucking likes, and they can't do a thing to him, right? Now, early days when he was building up his reputation, 80% of everything he broadcasted was all about Australia, all about Western Sydney, all local, all really good stuff. Now, he doesn't broadcast anything about Australia. It's all about Ukraine and Russia and RT and all this stuff. And all of his audiences, none of it's Australian. And I'm just saying, well,
perhaps maybe that's because he's holed up in the Russian embassy and that's all he's seeing.
Well, maybe.
I mean, it's pretty hard to get out there and talk about issues in Sydney streets when you're locked inside a Russian embassy. I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of just, to play a bit of devil's advocate there.
He can interview anyone online. Anyone.
Yes,
anyone online. He can get access to anyone. Okay, he can't go and kick tires like he used to, or sit in lobbies like he used to, and drive the cops and I used to love it when he did it, right? But he can't do that. But he can interview anyone online, and they're not. And all I'm saying is, we need people like you, Mark, and others, because at the moment there is dozens of issues that are not being talked about or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of fear porn and other stuff that's being pushed and all this sort of stuff. I have no fear, mate. I have no fear, right, at all. I mean, this is not a Klaus Schwab reset. This is the death. This is the death of the new world order we are witnessing. It's the death. So I don't have any fears there, but I truly fear that if we don't learn any fucking lessons about just how close we came with all of this shit, we're going to go and do it all again, mate. That's what I fear.
I agree. Wholeheartedly agree, mate. All right. So what is the answer to the captured judiciary? I kind of feel that was the same as what we just said, really. I think we could probably breeze past that one because I think we kind of covered that. It's because we've got a few questions to get through. When's the big strike date, please?
It's already started. The strike is not one action. We are laying siege against a belligerent occupation, and that siege is layer by layer by layer. So strike action by strike action by strike action, okay? It is not one event.
Yeah, so yeah, keep an eye on the website. You don't have to pay for the web to be a part of that. So, you know, just monitor what's going on if you want more information.
Yep.
What step is the national strike up to? I kind of feel that we've
Step
I don't
4.
know, step
Strike
4.
action 4. Strike action
Right.
4.
What does John think about the GG receiving a $200,000 pay rise? Make the union look like shithouse shoe shiners.
Look, it's only going to get worse, folks. I mean, Herb Utter, it's only going to get worse, mate. Everything you are witnessing here, it's going to just continue to deteriorate until the Australian society breaks. That's why I say we have to get this strike and this union in play really, really well done. Because if we don't do this, when society breaks, and it's going to break, right, we're going to see some ugly stuff. Unless we have a bit of discipline and a bit of organisation, we are going to see some ugly stuff. We may well see it anyway. Okay, it's going to get worse.
This is a time for good people to step up and get involved in your local groups and whatnot, and start coming together. You know, we'll have a bit of a talk a little bit more about how we're going to sort of do that in each sort of little area. I guess it's kind of up to each you know, sort of. I mean, obviously, you know, say Townsville, Cairns, you know, various places have got to sort of work out what works for them. You know, that's one of the big things. But yeah, we'll see. Get involved with your local people.
Yep.
My comment controllers in the background there. Do you want to go through some of the comments? Because I noticed a lot of new comments have come in, and just see if there's any more questions before we move on. We might wrap this up soon anyway. Is this majority rules? I do believe that's kind of what we've pointed out several times, that, you know, it's a populist movement, which means majority rules in a democratic construct.
I've been adding the questions as I go.
Okay, thank you. Voice behind the door.
Yeah, look, this is not a number sort of counting exercise. I think what you are going to be, what I'm expecting to deal with, is energy that is released, right? And that's not counting numbers. That's going to be a release of energy, right? Okay. And basically, we are going to be going with the energy flow right here, right? Like 50% plus one is fine, as long as the other 49% say, yeah, okay, we'll accept that outcome. You get 49% and say, okay, they're going that way, fuck them, we're all going this way. You've got a problem. You've got a problem with majority rules, right? I'm saying that it's going to get down to releasing energy, right? And as a populist movement, right, we are going to go with the energy flow, okay?
What would be the best strike action to take against the indoctrination of children in the education system? Homeschool would be the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah, look, homeschool, get your kids out. That's the very first thing. And then if you have a active local community, then muscle up with your local community, and then go and do all of the hard yards involved with straightening out your school, okay? But get them out of school. That's what I would do right now.
Aren't the people, by voting constantly in elections, endorsing the current system? I think that's
Correct.
a matter of, I think, I mean, I'm looking at a more recent scenario. Here in North Queensland, our mayor is currently under massive fire because he couldn't be controlled. In my mind, you know, the uni party's attacking him pretty bad, particularly Labor, because this is a Labor sort of run town for now. Let's hope we can change that. You know, and I'm not suggesting we should swap it out for Liberal by any fucking means. You know, they're two cheeks of the same ass, as Robin keeps pointing out. But I feel by not voting, you're also allowing more Labor and Liberal power. You know, we need to get into those independent scenarios. So we've had an independent mayor come in and just have a look at the shitstorm from the media and everything as they're desperate to get that person out, which to me says the idea of getting an independent person, somebody who's truly independent in, is a huge threat to the system because of the way they're reacting. Whit Sundays is having the same issue. Their mayor is also was voted in last cycle, but now they're really hammering down as they're seeing more and more independent mayors popping in. And now the Cairns mayor is under investigation as well. So I need to look into those scenarios a little bit more and hopefully reach out to those people. But unfortunately, because they're under legal pressure, they're not able to really come and talk to me, so at least from the ones I've been able to talk to. But you know, from my observational point of view, and this is just my personal opinion, that by getting independent people in who give a shit about freedom and the things we care about is obviously a huge fucking threat to them, because they wouldn't be attacking them so fucking hard if it wasn't.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, this is one of those questions, right, where I'm quite happy to be in disagreement, right? Disagreement, right? It's just the way it is, right? Again, I've just said that you have two lines of thought, right? One, who believe they can fix this shit up, right? They believe that, right? Okay. Now, I don't. I believe that when you do vote, right, you are participating in, and this is not my words, this is a whole body of research by Romney Stewart, by, Dick Yardley, Rick Bosey, Rod Cullerton, Wayne Glue, all of them. They all say that the parliaments are illegitimate. They all say political parties unlawful, all that, right? Okay, they say it, not me. And so I say that if you vote for something that's illegitimate and unlawful, right, you are participating in something that's illegitimate and unlawful. That's really as simple as that to me. So that should answer the question. Now, when it comes down to whether or not, we should push for independence and stuff like that, again, let's just talk it through. It's not a question of who's right and who's wrong. I don't think we should have that relationship and that conversation. I think what we should be saying, look, can we vote our way out of this, right? Is there a remedy? Is there, because if there is, I want to know about it, right? Okay. Now, to everything I know, Mark, there is no way you can vote your way out. No way, no possibility. They own all of it, right? All of it, right? The entire voting process is so rotten, so corrupt, right? Our votes mean nothing. I mean, up here in Queensland, our votes, all of our electoral roll is held in Wuhan, China. Yeah. They run our elections. They tally all of our voting. And I'm saying, right, as an ex-communist, that the Chinese Communist Party must be fucking laughing their heads off at this. I mean, this is beyond embarrassing. So I'm saying, if anyone out there believes that they can vote their way out of this, it is misguided. That's what I'm saying. I don't care. Forget about setting up new political parties. Forget about voting independent. Forget all of that stuff. They will outflank all of you on that, right? You are never going to achieve it, right? So I say, why support it? Why participate in it? That's me, right? Now, you'll come down. There's some people who believe they think they can fix this, all of this mess up. God bless their cotton socks. I mean them no ill will. I don't mean them any harm or anything else, but I'm simply saying you are off your fucking heads if you truly believe you can fix this up. You are crazy. We've had 200 fucking years to fix this shit up. Go and ask the blackfellas, mate. Go and ask the Australian Aboriginals. We've had 200 years to fix this shit up, mate, and it's only ever got worse. Not for them, for all of us.
That's exactly what was said last week. It's exactly what was said last week with Mayor, our Indigenous guest. So that's it. You know, we've totally fucked the system, and she's definitely much of the same opinion that, you know, voting is, you know, granting consent in some way. Me, I'm more of the I like to look at all the options, and I think while we're attacking here and while we're attacking there, that's a multi-pronged attack is a good system. And again, from the building skills scenario, I think, you know, to draw a positive from it, while good people are in there giving it a good go, they're getting an education. They're starting to see how the system works. They're learning, you know, they're getting, you know, and nothing beats hands-on experience. You know, you can read the shit out of a manual. That's great. But until you actually fucking do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Look, mate, I'm happy to be in disagreement with people on some of my views that I hold. But I say I don't wish people ill will, and we can talk things through, and we don't have to agree on every single detail. We don't. I want to demonstrate that to you. I want to demonstrate it to your audience and to everyone out there. I once was a hardline communist, mate. You got in my way, I would run over the fucking top of you. I carried a lot of political, economic, industrial muscle, mate. I was not a person to be fucked around with, right? I fucking hate democracy. I hate consultation. I love tyranny as long as I'm the fucking tyrant, right? That's Como John. That's Como John. I can't change. That's me. If I'm going to be, if I was the tyrant, mate, after what they've done to us, mate, you would see their body count, mate, through the fucking roof. I can tell you, this is criminality beyond belief, you know. So I'm happy to be in disagreement with people, mate. But I repeat, I need everyone out there, and you guys need me. Let's put aside any bumps and lumps in our agreement, and let's concentrate on the main game here. Let's get agreement on the main game. Do we or do we not have a belligerent occupation that's got to go? Because I say this, I converted every acre of land in Australia, according to the government website, down into acres, right? And I divided it into 26 million people. We have nearly 80 odd acres of land for every man, woman and child in this country, right? Nearly 80 acres. And they want us to live in a 15-minute city, right? We have a $1 trillion a year economy. $1 trillion. If you divide that, it's $1.5 trillion, I think. If you divide that into 26 million people, it's $50,000 or $60,000 each for every man, woman, and child. Now, all of this wealth, all of it is going over to London, to the banks, to the central banks. It's not staying in Australia. If we get our country back and just stop our money going elsewhere, every single Australian would be out of poverty over fucking night. Why are we fighting? Why are we arguing and fighting over bullshit now, over engineered shortages right now? Why don't we get rid of the belligerent occupation, and all of us will have so much to share that it's impossible for us to consume it? So I'm saying, Mark, let's stop the thinking. Let's stop the retarded thinking. Let's think big. Let's think big. We have a wealthy country here. There's no need for any of us to argue over one fucking Zach, over two bob. We have more wealth, mate, in this country. We just got to get rid of this belligerent occupation and keep the money here. It's ours by birthright. It's ours.
Agreed. And we can agree to disagree at the same time.
Yes.
So will the union have its own constitution and elections? I believe you're saying you're working on a constitution, but
constitution's done. Constitution's done. Registration is nearly complete. I'm now working on the rules and the regulations now, trying to get that finished with other team members. Right.
Nice. If everyone who strikes gets the sack the next day, then what? I feel like It's not. Are you talking about striking from our jobs, or like? I feel like the strike's a little bit more complex than that.
Yeah,
And
well,
this
look,
question seems to be aimed at just striking from your job.
yeah, look, that's a withdrawal of labour strike action, and we're just not there. We're not. I'm not saying we're not going to go there, but I'm simply saying we are not at a withdrawal of labour strike action yet. Not yet. Okay. And before any strike actions get ticked off and cleared by me and the team, we look at impact. What's it going to do to the striker? Up to top, right up to date, every strike action we've tried is to save people money, not cost them money. Okay. I mean, I've just told the story about $1,000 a week in rent, man. I mean, the last thing that me and my team want to do is to put people on the streets. No way. We want to avoid all of that.
I think it's a good point to sort of illustrate, because the first thing that pops into my mind, national strike, is, oh, okay, cool, we're all going to go on strike from our jobs. I think that's what people generally have in their minds, so it's good to clarify that.
No, absolutely. Look, strike has some positives and negatives, right? Everyone knows strike. They all know it means taking action against power, right? That's what it means, right? But they also always associate it with withdrawal of labour when this strike is not engineered. Like I said before, this strike is not about wanting more of what they've got. We don't want anything that they have. We want them out. And that's the reason this strike has to be done differently. Okay.
Awesome. What percentage, John, do we need for this to work, do you reckon? So I'm guessing that's a how many people sort of thing. How much muscle do we need?
Look, 1 million people or close to it, right? Anywhere up around 1 million only will do it. Right. My gold and silver people advise me there's a thing called the velocity of money, right? Velocity. The quicker money exchanges hands in an economy, etc., the better, the more stronger the economy is. But if the velocity slows down and bogs right down, it brings the economy down on top of it, right? So 1 million people we can really fucking play with and fuck them up when it comes to their velocity of money. Okay, that's the first thing. And secondly, we can pull a lot of money out of their system. So by well targeted and well executed strike actions, right, we can have a big effect with close to 1 million people. Right now, I've said there's 1.5 million active Australian trade union members right now who are all finding out how badly they've been portrayed. I know they're ringing me. They're ringing me up and expressing how much they are, pissed off. And they got nowhere to go. They got nowhere to go. We had 1 million in Canberra. That's only grown in the last 2 or 3 years, or 2 years, right? 2.5 years. So there's easily an easy 1 million people out there. If I get them, it's all over. Had we moved, I'll go further. Had we moved a motion in Canberra for a national strike in Canberra for withdrawal of labour, national strike in Canberra, all of this would have been over right now. It would have been over, right? I'm telling you. That's why that whole event was torpedoed. That's why.
Yeah.
If they moved the national strike back then for withdrawal of labour, it would have been over, right? 2 years ago.
All right. Well, we've reached the end of our questions and just grabbing the last few comments as we go through now, man. Look, I think, we're at 2.5 hours. It's been a great chat. I certainly feel a lot more enlightened about what it is you're trying to achieve and how you're going about it. Admittedly, when I first sort of seen it, I was a bit hesitant and I wasn't sure what was going on, but I knew I had to dive in and find a little bit more out. And I'm really glad that you reached out and shot me an email and said, hey, let's have a yak about it, man, because fuck, what a great conversation. Really enjoyed it, and I really want to do it again sometime.
Get me back in about 4 or 5 weeks, Mark, because I'll be able to talk in detail about the union. Okay, that's going to be very interesting for you and your audience. Okay, very.
No worries.
I promise.
Let me have a quick look. Maybe we can schedule an appointment live now if it suits, or would you rather sort of have wait till you've got things cemented and we'll nut it out later?
No. Look, you just contact me in say 3 or 4 weeks, mate, and you have my word. Whatever I'm doing, I will make room for you. Okay.
Awesome, mate. Much appreciated.
All right. And I will have some really, really interesting stuff to announce.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, mate. Looking forward to it.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, mate. We'll definitely talk to you again in the coming month. Any other people you've come across? Like, I'm curious about this fire ant thing that you mentioned too. If you want to send those guys feel free to pass my email on and phone number and whatnot, and we'll have a yak.
I'll do that tonight. I will connect you. I will connect you up tonight, brother. I'll get you talking. These are great activists, mate. You guys need them in your corner.
Love to meet them, man. Like I've covered so many things, since I started doing this, and come across so many different people, so many different walks of life I normally would not have sort of interacted with, and it's just so enlightening to continuously reach out and see new people, and and do it on such a public forum where so many other people are doing watching this. I think we're actually approaching, if I have a look, we're getting close to 2,000 people across the board here. Let's have a look at this one. Wow, I think we've topped about 2,000 views. Over 2,000 watching us live right now. So that's pretty awesome, man.
Okay, well, look, get me back again, Mark. Thank you for the invite, and it's been a great interview. Thank you.
Not a problem, man. And I'll just drop you backstage, and I'll wind this show up, mate.
Thank you. Let's get rid of these piss